to get the government books back into a balance. All of things off the top of my head which the current Labour Party opposition opposes.
Order. Question number 4, Eugenie Sage.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister for the Environment and asks, is water quality in New Zealand being negatively affected by livestock in rivers and lakes?
The Honourable Dr Nick Smith.
Mr Speaker, yes. That is why I welcome the progress in getting more rivers and lakes fenced. Just this last weekend, the Prime Minister announced at the Blue Greens Forum another $8 million of funding for improving water quality. Included in this package is a 1/3 contribution for farmers to fence 200 kilometres of New Zealand's most polluted river and its tributaries in the Manawatu.
Eugenie Sage.
Is it acceptable that as of June 2012, only 2 regional councils will prohibit intensively farmed livestock from accessing rivers and lakes?
The Honourable Dr Nick Smith.
I do think there is a real challenge for our regional councils to meet their requirements under the new national policy statement that this government put in place last year that requires councils to set limits. And included in that is the issue of fencing of waterways. Further to that, the Land and Water Forum, which is a very constructive engagement of a broad range of groups, is due to report back to government this month on the other steps that are required to ensure that we properly do set limits with the measures to protect water quality.
Eugenie Sage.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Given the ad hoc way in which regional councils try to control water quality degradation from stock access, will he not provide national consistency by implementing a national environmental standard to keep livestock out of rivers?
The Honourable Dr Nick Smith.
Mr Speaker, I am open-minded about using the additional tool of a national environment standard. But my concern more generally around water quality is it's been highly polarised arguments between different groups. And I think the fact that we have 58 groups engaging in the Land and Water Forum and actually coming to agreement at a national level about the measures that are required, in my view, is the constructive way forward. And this month I'm due to receive the report on the very issue that the member is rightly concerned about.
Eugenie Sage.
Mr Speaker, if the Land and Water Forum does recommend a national environmental standard on riparian fencing for stock, will he implement that, or will it be like the national policy statement which the Forum recommended, which will be substantially different from that which the Forum recommended?
The Honourable Dr Nick Smith.
I must set the record straight for the member. The government did respond consistently with the Land and Water Forum around the national policy statement, in fact, except in the area where the Crown Law Office advised us that we would be acting unlawfully. And it's not my habit as a minister to do that knowingly. In respect of, it's a hypothetical question, the way in which we will respond to the Land and Water Forum, but I want to reassure the member that this government is firmly committed to that collaborative process, and providing those measures are practical, then quite clearly we would want to advance their recommendations.
Jackie Dean.
The question is to the Minister for the Environment and asks, what reports has the Minister received on progress in improving water quality in Canterbury before and after the appointment of commissioners?
Mr Speaker.
The Honourable Dr Nick Smith.
Mr Speaker, yes, I have received reports, and they show that in the period prior to 2009, Canterbury had one of the worst records of compliance with resource consents, and in fact they were deteriorating in the previous year. I also note that in the year since commissioners were appointed, compliance rates on resource consents improved to 59% in their first year and up again to 65% in the year later. In fact, it's interesting, Mr Speaker, to note that the biggest improvement in compliance rates of resource consents of all the councils in New Zealand has been since we appointed commissioners in Canterbury.
Hane Harawira.
Does the Minister believe that the sale of New Zealand power companies to overseas interests before Māori claims to fresh water have been settled will have a negative impact on water quality in New Zealand, particularly given that those overseas interests are likely to be more concerned about the value of their investment than the quality of the water in our rivers and lakes?
The Honourable Dr Nick Smith.
Mr Speaker, the first point I'd make is there's no evidence as to the nature of the ownership affecting the way in which those property owners affect water quality. In fact, We should note that Crayford Farms, which has been the subject of significant controversy, was a New Zealand-owned company and had an appalling record in terms of its management of fresh water. Can I further reassure the member that the government is very committed to the engagement with the iwi leaders group around water and to improving the involvement that iwi have in the management of New Zealand's water resources? I think that's shown by our commitment in the Rotorua Lakes, on the Waikato River, and in the further 4 programs we announced at the weekend where iwi are actively involved in water cleanups.
Eugenie Sage.
Speaker, given that industry has already taken some initiative to promote fencing of streams, why won't he back that up by implementing a legally binding national environmental standard under the RMA to keep farmed deer, farmed cattle and dairy cows out of our waterways?
The Honourable Dr Nick Smith.
As I said to the member earlier, the government is open-minded about a national environment standard. The tension that I draw to the member's attention is that there is the disadvantage of a national environment standard when you've got a very geographically different areas around the country, and so sometimes it's better to have stuff being determined regionally and locally. On the other hand, there's the argument for just one set of rules nationwide. We will be listening very closely to the advice from the Land and Water Forum on what is the best way forward, but can I reassure the member, this government is firmly committed to improving New Zealand's freshwater management and quality.
Eugenie Sage.
Can I table 2 photographs?
Is this point of order? Point of order, Eugenie Sage.
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Point of order.
May I table 2 photographs emailed to me by a Northland citizen, Milan Ruka, of stock beside the Wairua River and another Northland river?
Leave us sort of table these photographs. Is there any objection? There is objection. Question number 5, Dr Cam Calder.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Corrections. What progress